There's, I just bought a Bugatti Chiron rich. And then there's, I needed space so I bought an island. That's stupid rich. But when you have more money than you could spend in 10 lifetimes, things start to get weird. Like buying a whole city just to fill it with life-sized dinosaur statues. Or dropping $5 million on an OnlyFans creator. Because, why not? At that level, the gap between a millionaire's flex and a billionaire's madness becomes mind-numbing. Get ready as we compare the weirdest, most absurd purchases of the 1% and the 0.01%. Most of us fantasize about what we'd do with $1 million. Pay off debt, travel the world, maybe buy a dream home. But when someone actually becomes a millionaire, those fantasies take a strange turn. Like when Paris Hilton, millionaire businesswoman, reality TV icon, and walking definition of born into the soft life, looked at her dogs one day and thought, you deserve better. Well, not a better leash or a better vet, but a better home. So she did what any completely sane heiress with generational wealth would do. She dropped $325,000 on a 2-story doggy mansion. And we're not talking about some cutesy garden shed with a food bowl and a bone-shaped welcome mat. No, this was a mini Versailles for Chihuahuas. The mansion comes fully loaded with central air and heating, mood lighting, custom designer furniture, and interior decor curated by her personal home stylist. It's painted to match her actual human-sized mansion and surrounded by a manicured lawn. The dogs live like Beverly Hills royalty because, well, technically they are. To put it in perspective, this doghouse costs more than the average home in Mississippi. It has better insulation than most starter apartments in New York City. Wild, right? Well, hang on. Because these millionaires spent money on things so bizarre, you'll be stuck somewhere between, okay, that's kind of genius, and this person needs therapy. Speaking of therapy, let's see someone who really needs that. Lady Gaga. She once shelled out $50,000 on an electromagnetic field detector just to chase away ghosts. Apparently, she believed spirits were following her on tour, so she went full Ghostbusters with custom tech and a spiritual force field. Not a stage prop, a real paranormal perimeter. Because when you're worth $300 million, fear gets expensive. You see, these days, attention isn't just currency, it's status. And some millionaires are willing to drop absurd amounts just to keep the spotlight on them. Like when Aiden Ross, the Twitch streamer with a net worth of about $24 million, paid $2 million just to have the controversial hip-hop artist Playboi Carti hop on stream with him for just about 10 minutes. It's crazy to wrap your head around, I know. But when a billionaire decides to get weird, the rules of reality just start to bend. Take Justin Sun, a Chinese crypto mogul worth over $8.5 billion, who in late 2024 waltzed into an art auction and dropped a cool $6.2 million. But this wasn't for some ancient sculpture or a lost Da Vinci. Nope. This is weird billionaire territory. What did he buy? A banana, duct taped to a wall. Yes, the infamous conceptual artwork known as Comedian. And then he peeled it off the wall and ate it, right there, in front of journalists and influencers at the event. $6 million gone in one crunchy, potassium-rich bite. This is so beyond just a weird flex. It is absolutely bananas. Now, when millionaires get hit by a weird impulse, they chase it hard. And it's still crazy, just on a slightly more human scale. For instance, your Hollywood millionaires aren't just into designer clothes and sports cars. Sometimes they have cravings that make no sense to anyone but their bank account. Take Nicolas Cage. Once one of the highest paid actors in Hollywood with a net worth of around $150 million, now sitting closer to $40 million. Cage once had the brilliant idea to write a horror novel. So, what did he do for inspiration? He spent $3.4 million on a house that once belonged to a 19th century serial killer who killed and tortured slaves. Yes, Nicolas Cage literally bought a murder mansion to get in the writing mood. The twist? He never even finished the book. Just another millionaire diving face-first into the deep end of indulgent spending. But while Nicolas Cage was buying a murder mansion to spark his creative juices, heavyweight boxing legend Mike Tyson, whose net worth once hit $400 million before plummeting to around $10 million, was out here making grand gestures of love. How grand, you ask? He once spent $2.2 million on a 24-karat gold bathtub as a gift for his then-wife. A literal bathtub made of gold. I guess nothing says, "I love you," quite like soaking in solid bling, even though she filed for divorce a year later. But if that was romantic, Mariah Carey took self-love to a ridiculous new height. With a net worth of around $520 million, the woman who basically hacked the holiday season with her never-ending Christmas anthem, "All I Want for Christmas Is You," decided that in 2016, luxury should follow her everywhere. Literally. So she spent $100,000 a month having exotic flowers flown in and arranged at whatever location she happened to be in. Hotel, jet, tour stop. It doesn't matter. If she's there, so are the roses. But Carey doesn't stop the love at herself. Even her dogs got the VIP treatment too. She assigned $40,000 a year just to keep her pups pampered with regular spa days. Facials, massages, bubble baths, the works. Her dogs probably have a more peaceful, lavender-scented life than most of us. But this is still just millionaire-level weird indulgence. Now let's crank it up to where the big B's play. That's billionaire territory, where weird doesn't just get bigger, it gets completely unhinged. Take billionaire hedge fund manager Steve Cohen, for example. Like many of the ultra-wealthy, he's deep into art collecting, but Steve's taste, it doesn't stop at oil paintings and abstract sculptures. This 69-year-old, with a net worth north of $21 billion, once dropped $8 million on, wait for it, a 14-foot shark. A real shark preserved in formaldehyde and suspended in a tank. It was created by British artist Damien Hirst, entitled "The Physical Impossibility of Death in the Mind of Someone Living." But Steve just calls it the shark. Because when you've got billions to burn, why not drop a casual $8 million to turn your living room into a Bond villain's trophy case? And speaking of Bond villain acquisitions, Elon Musk didn't just watch The Spy Who Loved Me and call it a day. Nope. He became obsessed with the Lotus Esprit, the iconic car in the film that transformed into a submarine, but you couldn't guess what he did. He bought the original movie prop for £775,000, which is about $997,000. Nearly $1 million for a car that doesn't even work underwater. And here's the kicker. When did Elon find out it couldn't actually transform into a submarine? He was genuinely disappointed, not just, oh well, disappointed. So disappointed that he actually considered building a real one. Because when you're Elon Musk with a mission to relocate humanity to Mars, you can as well try making your other sci-fi daydreams come to life. But Mark Cuban, billionaire businessman and Shark Tank regular, did something so bizarre it barely feels real. In 2021, he dropped $2 million to purchase Mustang, Texas, a literal ghost town with 0 residents. It was the fact that Cuban bought it to rename it Dinosaur Texas and fill it with life-sized Jurassic Park-style animatronic dinosaurs. Totally logical cause when you're a billionaire, you can create your own dinosaur fantasy. For a profit, of course. But then again, why build a dino land from scratch when you can just own a dinosaur outright? That's exactly what Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, MBS, did. He spent $31.8 million to buy a Tyrannosaurus Rex skeleton named Stan and put it on display in Saudi Arabia, like it was just another billionaire's conversation piece. Forget museum donations. MBS saw a 67-million-year-old apex predator and thought, yeah, that'll look great in my palace. But sometimes, billionaire buys are so jaw-droppingly ridiculous that folks like us have to just stop and ask, what even is life anymore? Let's say you finally level up, add a few zeros to your bank account, and decide to treat yourself to your dream sports car. You go out and buy one. Makes sense, right? Now imagine you've hit the hundreds of millions mark. Maybe you stretch a bit, get 3, maybe 5, 7, heck, go wild and buy 10. But if you're Hassan al-Bolkiah, the billionaire sultan of Brunei, a tiny, oil-rich kingdom in Southeast Asia, 10 is laughably small potatoes. This man owns around 7,000 luxury cars. Now let's do some light, brain-melting math. If the cheapest car in that fleet costs $500,000, which is being very generous, that's a garage worth $3.5 billion. But the real figure for his 7,000 cars? Well, the value is over $5 billion US. Yeah, that's not a collection. That's a rolling nation state. His garage is like a palace with wings dedicated to different brands. There are over 300 Ferraris, 20 Koenigseggs, 6 Daver Porsche, 9 6.2 LMs, 11 McLaren F1s, and 600 Rolls-Royces that the public is aware of. But get this, the Sultan's cars aren't even his most indulgent purchase. He also owns a fully gold-plated Boeing 747-8 LQ business jet, nicknamed the Flying Palace, which cost him around $100 million. And because just rich wasn't rich enough, he went ahead and spent an additional $120 million upgrading it. What kind of upgrades would a $100 million jet still need? Oh, you know, casual things like swapping out standard leather seats for leather seats with gold inlay, adding gold-plated sinks, and even installing a Lalique crystal sink, because diamonds and gold aren't just for jewelry anymore, they're for washing your hands at 35,000 feet. Some reports even claim this airborne mansion has 1,788 rooms, some decked out in gold, others in diamond. At that point, you're not flying a plane. You're commanding an airborne palace built to shame gravity. But let's drop back down to the world of millionaires and their own brand of weird. Daniel Radcliffe, the young star who played Harry Potter, is worth about $110 million, and he once admitted to splurging $17,000 on a mattress. I guess after years of dodging Death Eaters and fighting off Voldemort, apparently, the least you deserve is a magical night's sleep that costs nearly $20,000. Then there's Beyoncé, who decided to quite literally shine. For the 2007 BET Awards, Queen Bey dropped a cool $100,000 on a pair of gold Balenciaga leggings. Because when you're Beyoncé, you don't just dress like a star, you step out dipped in actual gold. But then Katy Perry also took it to an outer space level when she bought her then-fiancé, Russell Brand, a birthday gift that was truly out of this world. A $200,000 ticket for a flight with Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic. The couple eventually divorced, but Katy kept the space dream alive. In April 2025, she booked herself a trip to space, this time with Blue Origin. Now, Blue Origin keeps their ticket prices hush-hush, but serious passengers are expected to drop at least $150,000 as a deposit. And Katy? She was serious. She blasted off, floated around for 5 minutes, then returned and kissed the ground like she'd just completed a full interstellar saga. Hip-hop icon and billionaire Jay-Z isn't missing from the weird flex conversation either. He once bought a bottle of gold-plated champagne, the legendary Armand de Brignac Ace of Spades, for a cool $200,000. It's flashy, it's rare, it's literally wrapped in gold, and Jay-Z basically said, why not? But Jay-Z isn't the only one popping golden luxury. Kanye West, now known as Ye, was deep in the weird buy trenches, especially during his marriage to Kim Kardashian. Together, they spent $750,000 on 4 gold-plated toilets. That's literally taking dumps on gold. Toilets. Even the goose that laid the golden egg never had a throne this shiny. Now, imagine you just made your first million. What would be the next plan? House? Lambo? Maybe a vintage Rolex? But billionaires don't think that way. Take note, while millionaires throw money at Patek Philippe's or Rolex watches, billionaire Jeff Bezos basically said, why stop at telling time? Let's tell the next 10,000 years. So he casually dropped $42 million to build a massive clock, one that ticks just once a year and is designed to run for the next 10,000 years. It's called the Doomsday Clock. Not exactly comforting. This mechanical titan will stand 500 feet tall, buried inside a mountain, and run on Earth's thermal cycles. It features things like a solar synchronizer, a giant pendulum, a chime generator, and more gears than a Bond villain's evil lair. And again, it's called the Doomsday Clock. Look, I don't know about you, but when one of the richest men on the planet quietly builds a time machine for the apocalypse and says it's a long-term symbol for humanity, I think we should all be at least a little nervous. And then there's Roman Abramovich, Russian billionaire, football club tycoon, and collector of things that scream, I'm not from this planet. Literally. This man owns a coffee table made from an actual meteorite, a chunk of space rock that crashed into Namibia and somehow ended up in his living room. Not a marble slab, not reclaimed wood, a coffee table forged from a meteor that fell from the sky. But weird buys don't get much weirder than exotic pets. Now, when normal folks think pet, they picture a puppy. Millionaire Mike Tyson pictured a jungle. Yeah, let's talk about this. Mike Tyson once bought himself 3 Bengal tigers at $70,000 each. And because casually owning apex predators apparently wasn't wild enough, he also hired a personal tiger caretaker, paying them $125,000 a year to make sure his big cats were comfy. But even that seems somewhat reasonable compared to Nicolas Cage, who once spent $150,000 on a pet octopus. Not for research, not for an aquarium, just because. Apparently, he believed the octopus would help him become a better actor. And yet all of that starts to sound almost normal next to what Chinese billionaire Hu Zhenyu did. He paid $329,000 for a pet pigeon. A pigeon. You know, those birds people usually call rats with wings and shoo off their balconies? Hu looked at one and thought, that's worth 6 figures. And then actually paid it. They say never meet your heroes. But when you're a millionaire, that rule kind of stops applying. Take iShowSpeed, the wildly popular streamer who's racked up a net worth of around $10 million. Now here's where it gets weird. Speed isn't just a fan of Cristiano Ronaldo. He's obsessed. But unlike your typical die-hard fans who hang posters or collect jerseys, Speed takes his admiration to a whole new level. He bought a Flight of CR7 watch for $50,000. And if that wasn't enough, he went out and dropped around $300,000 on a Lamborghini, then had it fully customized, wrapped in red and green, with images of Ronaldo plastered all over it like a rolling fan shrine. Because when you love Ronaldo and have millions, why not let the entire highway know? But while Speed was fanboying at full throttle, Bill Gates reminded the world what billionaire-level splurging really looks like. Back in 1994, Gates spent $31 million to purchase a celebrity's personal journal. And, well, that was none other than Leonardo da Vinci's journal, known as the Codex Leicester. This wasn't just any book. It contained da Vinci's original sketches and theories on everything from astronomy and botany to mathematics and architecture, written between 1506 and 1510. Literal handwritten thoughts from the original Renaissance genius. While that's the kind of purchase that actually makes sense for a billionaire tech icon, what Gates did next was shocking. Instead of hoarding it in a private vault, he digitized the entire journal and made it accessible to the public for just $30. So yeah, he spent $30 million. So the rest of us could swipe through da Vinci's brain on a budget. But while Bill Gates was spending $30 million on da Vinci's journal, some other rich dude was out here dropping $5 million on OnlyFans content. Specifically, on Sophie Rain, a 20-year-old creator who's been absolutely dominating the platform. In 2024 alone, she reportedly made $43 million from her content. And in 2025, she's already racked up $76 million, and counting. But what really broke the internet wasn't just her earnings. It was a single subscription from a fan going by the name Charlie, who dropped a whopping $4.7 million on her content. One subscriber, nearly $5 million. At that point, it's not OnlyFans. It's Only Fortunes being funded by sad simp millionaires. Now armed with her own mega millions, Sophie wasted zero time turning that internet cash into a real-world flex. She went out and bought 7 high-end cars, including a Porsche, a Mercedes-AMG G63, an Audi RS Q8, a Ford F-150 Raptor, and 2 diesel trucks. Yes, diesel trucks. Why? Because she also dropped $2.7 million on a farmland estate with a house, just so she could live out the rich country girl fantasy. This isn't just a story about weird purchases. It's about the invisible line between wealth and power. Millions versus billions are on a completely different level. And as you have seen, at times it can get weird. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and like to support. For more fascinating facts about the rich and infamous, click on the next video here. See you on the other one.